All right, so today I wanted to start off by talking about a crazy story I seen from Randy Hillier, and he links to an Ottawa Citizen article talking about Health Canada knew about contaminated water for 2 years before Mississippi Mills residents were warned. And Randy Hillier says if our government and bureaucracies will lie and conceal information such as this, how can we trust any claims or denials made today? We must challenge our government and we must be sure to hold them accountable. Now, it's a very good point, and I wanted to touch on multiple things here. The first one being I don't know how anybody can be overly trustworthy of the government. I don't care which side it is. If you are overly trustworthy of the government, like I seriously don't have words for you because for starters, you don't know anything about history because if you look back at the history of the last, I mean, all of history basically, but especially recent, I mean, honestly, all of history, one of the main take home points is be very skeptical of authority, right? In fact, it's almost to the point to where it's like you can't be skeptical enough of authority. And yet we still have a very large percent of the population that's completely oblivious to this kind of stuff. They think, oh yeah, we have a democracy, therefore we're completely immune from all this kind of stuff. No, and this is going to be our downfall as a society, I think, is that we have definitely the majority of the population. It may not be the vast majority, but it's definitely the majority of people who think that we're completely immune, that it can't possibly happen that we face some of the challenges that people faced for going back the entirety of history. And again, we think that we're immune from it because we're brainwashed into thinking that we have this bastion of a free society and nothing and no one will ever take it from us. You're wrong. You're so wrong if you believe that. It's not even funny. And not believing that it's the case will be our downfall, right? I'm not saying that you have to think that it's inevitable and be constantly on edge about it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you don't have a healthy dose of skepticism, it's going to happen. And because we are so reliant on technology and not as reliant on things are a lot less primitive than when they once were or what they once were, we have a lot further to fall, right? Like we have a lot further to fall. Like if you catch your own food and hunt for it and get your own water and you built your own shelter, like you don't got that far to fall. But we people don't realize just how bad things could get. Now, getting into this point here, the main point here is the government lying. Again, what's new? The government lies. And why do they do this kind of stuff? Well, why they do it is because they know they'll get away with it, right? They know they'll get away with it. Is anybody at Health? Did anyone at Health Canada get fired? I maybe, but I doubt it because if there was, I'm sure they would have announced it, right? So the problem is that governments have no incentive to do the right thing, especially unelected people within government, like people at Health Canada, right? Especially unelected people, but elected people to a large part as well. People think that, oh, if they do a bad job, they'll get voted out or they'll get fired or whatever, but that's not how it works. That's not how it works. If you work in the public sector, you don't get paid based off providing a good service. In fact, most of the time, it's the exact opposite. The goal of many people that work in the public sector is to do the least amount to get the most, right? That's what the goal is that they want to work there, 8, 9 months a year and get way more time off than the average person does. They want to retire when they're 55 or 60 with full pensions, right? That's what they want to do, but they don't want to work for it. They definitely don't want, and again, people that work in these sectors always will disagree with that. Number one, I'm not saying everybody believes that. Obviously, not everybody, but the majority of them. And here's the thing: if they didn't believe that, they would be perfectly fine with competition. This is the one reason I always bring up is that teachers, for example, again, if they actually thought that they were worth as much as they were getting paid, especially when you include all the benefits, they would love competition because they would destroy the competition and they would get paid even more. But they don't do that. Why? Because they know they're not worth as much as they're getting paid. And it's the same thing with all these other government employees. Again, not all of them, but the vast majority of them. Again, if they didn't believe what they believe, they wouldn't be working in these sectors, right? They wouldn't be working in these sectors. Again, these public sector jobs exist so people can put in as good of an effort as they want. If that effort means no effort, hey, they still get paid. You still get paid as same as the next guy, no matter how good of a job you do. And again, like I say, if there isn't people at Health Canada getting fired over this, why would anybody have any faith in the system whatsoever? Why would anybody have any faith in the system whatsoever? Because again, if the private sector was in charge of this kind of stuff and they were giving people contaminated water, that person they would lose their house. They would be sued into bankruptcy. And rightfully so, if they willfully ignored a major threat. But when you work in the public sector, you're completely immune from any of this kind of stuff, which is absolutely insane. So anyway, that's and here's the thing. The other thing too is that when it comes to the whole virus situation, like this is just another example of why in the world does anybody trust the government is beyond me. It's beyond me. But anyway, another study from Rocco Galati, he tweeted out on November 1st talking about how masks don't work. So again, if you want to check that out, go check out his Twitter. You can find the link to that. So go check that out. Again, just numerous studies. I can't even count how many I've seen showing masks do nothing. Have we been provided any hard evidence that they do anything? Absolutely not. Like expected. So go check that out. It's kind of boring to constantly have to bring this stuff up, but nonetheless, we need to keep talking about it because here's the thing. Like I always bring up is that the mask zealots and the lockdown zealots will never admit they're wrong. They will keep wanting to double down and double down and double down until they can't double down anymore. And until we wake up, and I mean not we, because most of the people watching this probably are fully aware, but the majority of the population, I do believe, is at the very least somewhat skeptical of this garbage. The problem is there's a lot of people that are afraid to speak up. And there's a lot of people that think, oh, it's just a mask, it's just temporary, who cares, just do it. But that's not how it works. You look at Nova Scotia, I think it was, or is it New Brunswick? One of the Atlantic provinces implemented mask mandates when they literally had one active case in the entire province. Right? This has nothing to do with reducing the spread. This has everything to do with pushing a political agenda. So anyway, the next thing to bring up is another interesting story from Jeremy Farkas here. So most people probably heard Calgary is cutting their police budget, and he was someone who was very, very outspoken against that, and he has been let go. I don't know if it was actually if it was him resigning or him getting fired. Let's see here. He was removed as a counselor. So whatever you want to draw from that conclusions. But yeah, this is the goal. And again, this is the thing that really bothers me with these people is that they think that because according to these people, they think their position is making things safer, right? They think defunding the police is going to make things safer, and it's not. It's going to do the opposite, right? It's going to do the opposite. Now, I do believe that policing should be done in a very different way, but not defunded, right? Not defunded. And again, if you want to criticize the police, fine. But again, other good arguments is again, number one, 99.9% of people, maybe not that much, but the vast majority, 99.9% of people that want to defund the police, I would say, would overestimate the amount of unarmed people of color that are killed every year by police. I would bet money on that at least 99% of them would overestimate that number, right? And in fact, I would guess that more people would overestimate it by at least 100 times than would accurately estimate it. And this is why, because these people live in echo chambers, right? Another good point too to bring up is, medical errors kill literally thousands of times more people. You got 15 roughly unarmed black people that are killed by police in the States every year. And you have like 100,000 that are killed by preventable medical errors, right? So again, if it was about saving, this has nothing to do with saving lives, and this is why these kind of topics are so heated. Why there's so much polarization these days is that they're not being honest about their intentions. The main goal behind their intentions is not to save lives. It's not to end racism. If it was to save lives and end racism, they wouldn't be talking about defunding the police. They wouldn't be. The main goal is to push a far left political agenda. And if they were actually honest about that, like I always bring up, at least we could have an honest conversation with these people. At least we could have an honest and open conversation, and we might actually be able to get somewhere. But we can't, because we have people that are pretending their beliefs is about saving lives and racial equity when it has nothing to do with that, or very little at the most. And it's good we have people speaking up about it, but we should have more. And here's the thing. The vast majority of people do not want to defund the police. Even the majority of blacks don't. Right? So this is the thing, that the vast majority of people don't agree with this. The problem is that the people who do want to defund the police are so vocal and so outspoken that they appear like they're a much larger percent of the population than they actually are. And they are very vicious, oftentimes violent, with people who disagree with them, which is why the average person is afraid to speak up. And we have to stop doing that. We have to stop doing that. So the last thing to bring up is a kind of a very ironic thing that's very pointless, but from Mark Parolovis saying, you need to use your critical thinking here, everyone. Now, again, they're comparing Christine Blasey Ford to Tony Bobulinski. Obviously, Christine Blasey Ford, I have no witnesses, no details, no evidence. And again, most of the media took her as credible accusations. And then Tony Pavlinsky, he's like, yeah, I have recordings, emails, texts, itineraries, and receipts. And again, apparently he's not credible. Now again, um, the this is just absolutely insane. And again, it's not even a political thing. It's not the amount of people that I've seen back during the Kavanaugh thing, like just average people that aren't overly political, that I've seen bring them up, and actually took this woman seriously. It's like, how stupid can you, like, I immediately lose respect for these people, and it's so painful because some of them I want to have respect for, and some of them are very, very intelligent in other aspects of their life, like they're actually doing very good for themselves in other aspects. But it's like, how can you be doing so good for yourself in your professional career, but yet you're so ignorant? It's not even funny when it comes to this kind of stuff. I don't know how people square that away. Like, I really don't. It's very much beyond me. And again, the reality is that it's a political thing, because again, I don't think that these people can possibly be that stupid. And again, I don't mean to be mean, but again, you are incredibly ignorant. And if anything, that's an understatement. If you took Blasey Ford seriously, but not Bobulinski. And again, it's not a political thing. It's simply the fact that she had no evidence. And the people that she claimed would back her up didn't back her up. And Bobulinski, I don't think the guy could have more evidence if you were making it up in a story, aside from the Bidens admitting it themselves like yesterday or the day before. Um, yeah, that's he couldn't have more evidence unless the Bidens literally put out a press release saying, yeah, it's all true. So, but again, uh, the bias knows no bounds, and that's what, like, I'm not big on the right. Like, I'm not a huge fan of them. But the one reason why I find myself constantly having to side with them is that the double standard is so palpable, so insane, that you you can't help but just laugh. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. So if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, BitChute, Parler. If you want to donate, you can do that through Patreon or through e-transfer. All those links are in the description, so you can find them all there. I appreciate whatever support I can get.